Oh no, you took the dog of a listing, didn't you?
It's okay. We'll see what's emerging.
So the big question is this. As real estate agents, how do we figure out where and when to cross the finish line of this crazy business? We're told that we need to build a real estate business that supports us after we pay our dues. Well, the truth is that so many agents spend decades looking for the finish line and never find it. And I don't know about you, but we'll be damned if we're doing open houses until we're 70. You have to have passive streams of income in your real estate business if you want to survive. Well, this is exactly what we're talking about right here, right now on the Passive Real Estate Agent Podcast. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Passive Real Estate Agent Podcast. I'm Anthony Nitz.
And I'm Matt Stewart.
All right, welcome. You were confused there for a second.
I figured it out quick.
Well, hey, we've got a couple interesting topics to discuss today. We're talking about generating income for you in your real estate business and getting passive income in your business. But in order to get passive income in your business, you got to be able to fund your business too, right? That means getting deals done. That means, taking advantage of opportunities as they are presented to you, and just pulling the trigger on some certain things. But you know what? I can speak from experience, Matt. Recently, I've taken listings that you go, there's sometimes as an agent, you walk into a listing and you go, oh, thank God. This place is gorgeous. It's in the perfect neighborhood. It is perfectly maintained. It is decorated like a stager decorated it. And oh my gosh, they're not even asking for, a higher price than what it's worth. Right. And you're like, I'm going to sell this thing in about a minute. Right. And you're like, oh, thank God. But unfortunately, those don't come along.
I wish it could all be like that.
Yeah. And on the other end of the scale, you've got the dog of a listing. And when I say a dog of a listing, it might not be a bad house. It could just be the wrong house or the right house, but in the wrong area, or, the wrong house in the right area. You know what I mean?
Something that causes difficulty for the sellers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll give an example. I have a listing right now that, the house itself is actually fabulous. It's gorgeous. It's 4150 square feet.
Nice.
That's not including the guest house, and that's not including the shop.
It's a big property.
Oh yeah, it's on a half an acre, and if you know about Orange County, California, a half an acre lot is like a big deal.
Yeah.
And the house is incredibly well built, remodeled, maintained, all that good stuff. The guy who owns it is a general contractor. So it's all high-end materials that are in there. Here's the problem, is that their house is the only house that is 4150 square feet with a guest house and a shop, where all the other homes in the neighborhood are only about 2800 square feet. And to top that off, when you look at the listing, what do most people do? They're going to look at the listing. They go, gosh, where is that? They're going to pull it up on a map. And if the house is right here, the freeway is right here, and another main street is right here. They're right smack in between the two, right? So the perception from most people, and we've had this feedback quite a bit, was like, I'd call agents and I go, why haven't you shown the house? And they say, well, we looked it up on the map and go, oh yeah, you guys are like right next to the freeway. We don't want to live next to the freeway. But when you're there, which I've been there many times, when you're there, you're like, there's no freeway noise. They don't understand that the freeway the elevation has been dropped significantly. And on top of that, at the elevation of the street, the sound wall, there's a 16-foot sound wall. And so any sound that's happening from the freeway is flying right over the top, right? And not even It doesn't even affect it. I've been in houses that were next to the freeway, like where their back fence was the freeway. And, you know, you're out there yelling to have a conversation. Not the case here. So my point is this is one of those houses where it's a dog of a listing in the sense that it creates an initial perception of being a, you know, I don't know if I want to live next to a freeway. But once people get there, they all go, all the feedback has been like, oh, wow, this place is amazing, right? So how do you get people there? How do you get people to get past the whole freeway thing? And I got a few tips for our agent friends to take advantage of. So one of the things you may or may not be aware of in our multiple listing service, or at least in my multiple listing service, you'd have to check with your multiple listing service. We have a reverse prospecting feature, right? And so what that means is I can log into my multiple listing service, pull up my listing, and get a reverse prospecting report, and it will show me the 493 agents who have a client whose criteria matches what we're offering. And so when I do that, when I do that, now it gives me a targeted list that I can go to and start to market this property to, right? But you got to be careful on how you do this. You know, to send out a list, go, hey, please go look at my listing. I'm begging you, please, right? We took some time. We created a video where we, you know, called the elephant out in the room. Hey, look, I know it's by the it's by the freeway, and it looks like it's a bad thing. Trust me, it's not. This is one of those houses you have to go see. Do us a favor and actually go and look at it yourself first before you make a judgment, because it's really in a great place. But if I didn't have reverse prospecting, I'd be shotgun marketing all over the place, right? And so it's like, okay, I've got, you know, 36,000 agents in Orange County. And I mean, literally, that's what we have here, maybe even more now. But 36,000 agents, how many of them have a client looking for what my property is worth? Well, I can tell you specifically 436 of them, or whatever that number was, right? So this is a great way to get that difficult listing sold. And and then also what you can do is, because you have a narrowed list, maybe offer some incentives, you know, and just kind of on the side go, hey, look, this is only going out to a select few agents. And if you bring us an offer by September 30th, then we're going to, you know, we're going to kick you in an extra $1,000. Whatever, right? Something, whatever the incentive is, right? Whatever you want to do. We're going to give you a Starbucks gift card. I don't know, whatever. But this gives you an opportunity now, and it gives them an encouragement to do it. And that also ties into my other thing, the Creative Broker Open. So at least here in California, and I hear it's different now in other states where people are definitely more relaxed about this. And depending on when you're hearing this, this may be all over with, but it's a good thing to take into consideration, because we may come across other challenges in the business. So we need to find creative ways to get as many people to look at our house as possible. Well, in California, you know, under COVID restrictions and guidelines and stuff, we can't do open houses. We're not allowed to do open houses. That includes broker opens. Okay. Talking about COVID, I start coughing. But, you know, it's just a thing.
You're okay.
Take my temperature. But we're not allowed to do open houses. And so because we're not allowed to do open houses, we can't do broker opens. Well, again, this particular listing that I have, it is one of those ones where, again, once you get there and once you get in, you go, oh my gosh, this is not bad at all. This is not what we thought it was going to be, right? Based on the perception and the feedback that everybody else has given. And so what we did was we called our title rep, and we said, hey, you know what? We know you guys have all the lists all the agents in the area. Now, granted, and this is separate from the reverse marketing. We used that list as well, but with the list from the title rep, we said, give us the top 100 selling agents in the area, buyer's agents. Okay, give us the top 100 buyer's agents in the area, and they're going to send us a list where these people are selling, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses a month at least in this particular area, and we send them that same video going, hey, you've got to see it. So what the net result in doing that and sending this email out with a video addressing the elephant in the room, the net result is that we had no showings, virtually for the last 30 days almost, to suddenly now we're getting 2 or 3 agents looking at the property. Some of them are bringing clients, and some are just previewing, and that's okay, because all we need is one, right? We just need one. But otherwise, if we weren't doing these techniques, we would just be sitting there twiddling our thumbs going, oh God, dear God, please, somebody sell it. And of course, having the conversation with our sellers about price. We know it's price if people aren't coming to the house. But in this case, it's not really, because we're about $100 per square foot less than the other similar homes, within a couple mile radius of us. So you got to get creative. You got to figure out ways to get bodies into your listings. And this isn't just for homes that are dogs, right? This is homes that are great listings too. Why not get as many people in? The one thing that we did on the Creative Broker Open though is that we said, look, if you give us a you put your name and an email in, phone number, and then you also give us thoughtful feedback, and I use the word thoughtful feedback, then we're going to enter you into a drawing. Okay, and if you actually show the house to clients, we're going to give you an entry for the number of people that you show the house to. Okay, so it increases their odds of winning, and we're giving away a $250 Amazon gift card. Okay, a lot of people like that, but it's an ethical bribe, right? It's just a way of, again, please get in there and take a look at this house, but the thoughtful feedback. So, guys, how many times have you asked for feedback from an agent, and you're like going, so what did you think about the house? Right? That's kind of an open-ended question, which should elicit a fair response, right? And they go, overpriced, or they go, too cluttered, or they go, something like that. And that's valuable feedback, but I want thoughtful feedback, meaning, if it's overpriced, what should it be, in your opinion? Because if you think it's overpriced, you have a number in your head. If you think it's too cluttered, you have an idea of what it should look like and what room is too cluttered, and things like that, right? So if they give thoughtful feedback, we're going to enter them into a drawing to do it. And that feedback is so incredibly valuable when we're going back to the seller and saying, guys, look, here's the problem. This is what the problem is. We had, 27 agents come through. Of the 27, 18 of them said the same thing. How can they argue that? Because sellers can always argue that I don't know what I'm talking about after, I've only been doing this for almost 25 years now, and then they go, what do you mean reduce our price? You don't know what you're talking about. Our house is worth it because we put a new water heater in, that's about what it comes down to. And so it's very difficult. And I'll give you one example before we move on. But I had a listing that when I walked in, and I have a different perspective than people. What I saw did not bother me at all. These people had a doll collection, like a really expensive doll collection, and they had them placed literally all the way around on all four walls in every room of their house. I don't know why I didn't think that that was going to be an issue. Or I wasn't, I did mention it to him. I'm like, yeah, you probably want to get rid of that stuff. But I wasn't like assertive about it because I was like, you know, people can see past that. It's just a doll collection. Well, when I did the brokers open and I had all the agents come through and give me feedback, they said that they are, you know, get rid of the dolls because the dolls are too distracting. Get rid of the, and this was after several weeks on the market when that home should have had offers. They said, get rid of the dolls. They're too distracting. My client spent more time looking at the dolls than they did looking at the house, that sort of thing. And you go, oh, I should have had a V8, right? But then you go, okay, so then now I go back to my client and go, guys, look, I've had 10 agents say get rid of the dolls, right? And because I'm just stupid me with, you know, decades of experience, right? When I tell them, when I show them that, they go, oh, maybe we should get rid of the dolls. Okay, fine. So they got rid of the dolls. The end result on that one was we had a full price offer within, I think it was 4 days after that.
Wow. So,
you know, feedback is huge, but you got to get the agents in there. And right now, that's what we're talking about is creative ways to get agents in when you're selling a difficult house. But, you know, where else might you find some difficult houses, Matt?
well, actually, before I get into that, I do have a question about the video that you're talking about shooting. So you talked about the elephant in the room, get it out there. How would you go about that? Because I mean, I think of, let's say that there's a property that appears to be close to the freeway and close to another main street. But when you get there, it's like really great. It's the noise from the roads are not really a problem. Would you go in the backyard and record that video there to give them, hey, look, there's not a lot of sound? Or how would you, I guess, you know, how do you deal with the elephant? But I guess that depends on the problem, right? Or
Right. So yeah, one of the things that I did was I actually have on my phone, I have this little tool that records decibel meters. And I stood out in front of my house and I said, look, here's the decibels in front of my house. Now, my house, you know, it's in a neighborhood that's off of this, actually the same major street that they're off of. But we are about 20 houses in, right? And I held the decibel meter up and I go, look, you know, I mean, here it is. We still hear a little bit of road noise. It's not a big deal. Nothing that anybody goes, oh my gosh, there's so much road noise. And then I went over to the other house and I stood in their front yard and I did the same thing. And I go, guys, it's virtually the same. It's virtually the same. This is what I'm trying to tell you, that this sound is not an issue if that's what your concern is. As a matter of fact, it was a benefit to have your house this close to the freeway, because when you tell somebody I'll be there in 20 minutes, guess what? You'll be there in 20 minutes.
Right.
You know, it's not like me. I got to drive 10 minutes just to get to the freeway.
Right.
You know, and
well, I like what you did, because there is an objective meter that you can show versus, hey, I kind of like it, but I don't, too subjective that way. Yeah. So anytime that you can give an objective, here's what we're seeing, then
right.
It adds a little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, like you're not just making it up.
Yeah. I'm not just fluffing it up saying, you know, it's not that bad. And then they get over there and it sounds like a,
train going through the yard.
Train going through the yard all day long, all night long. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. So, yeah. So that's, that's it. And again, I think the issue of drawing attention to the elephant in the room, I think there's a psychological effect that happens there when you disarm somebody from the get-go. You let them know, hey, we know this is a problem too, as opposed to like what most marketers do is they go, what problem
here?
If we pretend it's not there, then others might not notice either. Right. It's like, dude, the big red, dot is right on your nose. We can see it. What red dot, you know?
Right.
And so, yeah, calling it out in the beginning. But of course, you don't need to do that for all your listings. Again, it's just a matter of volume and momentum of getting agents into the house so that they can take. So, and compare this to open house, to a regular open house, right? A traditional open house, you put signs out, you got people coming in randomly. They don't really know much about the house before they get there and so on. And maybe they like it, maybe they don't. You get some leads, great. Agents, on the other hand, you know, that one agent is going to be working with 5 or 10 or 20 buyers and significantly increase your odds of getting that home sold.
Right.
So, you know, so that's really kind of where that, where you go with that, you know?
Sure.
But, so what are you talking about today, Matt? You got
Well,
emerging markets, right?
emerging markets. Yeah, there's, these are, I would think, whether you're dealing with investments or if you're dealing with just a personal residence, you want to be in an area where the equity or the value of your house has a chance to increase substantially. So there are things that can happen within your city, your submarket, your neighborhood, where there's certain things happening that make the demand for property higher. Those are emerging markets. Things like you've got Amazon moving to the area, bringing 2,000 jobs to your area. That's going to cause an increase in demand. Your values are going to be higher because of that. There's going to be new jobs that are going to support those 2,000 Amazon jobs. In fact, I think I might have mentioned this last week. For every one job that comes to town, it creates 2 or 3 other supportive jobs. You need grocery stores, you need dry cleaners, gas station, those types of things that support that job that came to town. So you want to identify the key factors of what makes an emerging market. So job creation is one. There's also something called a revitalization zone. That is an area that maybe at one period of time, it had a bunch of warehouses. And for many years, those warehouses were used for businesses, but maybe things changed and those businesses have gone away. Now you've got some vacant buildings. Well, the city may do something to incentivize investors to go to that area and maybe rebuild or redevelop it. They'll give incentives like maybe discounts on the cost of the land. Maybe they'll give a tax credit to the investor or the business. And those things can cause new businesses, new buildings to go into that area. And that is a revitalization zone. And it makes it very appealing for people. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so how do you figure out if you're in a revitalization zone?
The city is the one you want to talk to people at the city because it's the actual city that decides what area they're going to focus on. So they'll tell you, yeah, this is in a revitalization zone, and so that would be probably the first place to go, or really it's the only place that I'm aware of that you would start off, because it's not unless it's a county property, then maybe the county can give you a heads up on that.
What's the person you mentioned on last week's podcast? There was a specific person or department that you would
the economics development department.
Yeah.
That could be that's a really good person to go to. The city planner. You want to look at the master plan for the city. That tends to be, how are they wanting to do things? The tricky part is the city actually following their master plan? Because they might have a master plan, but they're not really sticking to it. And if you saw the master plan 2 years ago, did it get changed? Have things develop in a way where now they're changing the direction of the plan for the city? So that's how you want to have that relationship that we spoke about last time, so that you can get updates on what's going on with there. Gosh, there was another point I just had. I've lost it.
That's okay.
but maybe it'll
So
come back to me in a moment.
yeah, so as an investor, if you're, as an investor or as an agent or as an agent investor, if you walk into the city, you go to the economic development department
Mhm.
and you speak to, are they going to take the time of day to actually sit there and talk with you, or?
It's possible. It depends on uh, what kind of rapport that you've established with them. As most people listening to this podcast will know, real estate is a very big on relationships. So you've got to be genuine. You've got to take the time to really build that rapport with the individual that you're speaking to. Um, if they really believe that you're interested genuinely in what they're doing, um, then I think you're going to have a better chance of uh, getting what you need from them.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's just human nature to feel valued. And
Of course, yeah. You go busting in the door there and go, tell me where all the big scores are, because I want to,
who are
I want to make
you?
$1 million, and they're going to be like, yeah, get out of here. But how do you make it about them and what's important to them and what, you know, like you said, make it like that you're actually interested in what they're doing, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this before on a previous podcast, but there was a book I have, The Art of Verbal Manipulation. The title sounds kind of like, oh my gosh, but
Oh, but that's
I read something about that is like, if you can get a person talking about themselves, they think you're the best person in the world. Okay. I tried it out once. I was looking for a job in radio, and I asked this lady about her job and her experience. Where initially, when I asked, "Can I leave my give them my resume?" She says, "No, no, I'll handle it. I'll forward your information." So I just started talking to her, asking about her experience. By the time that we were done, she's like, "Here's the person's email. I want you to call them." She's like
right.
almost demanding in a very nice way. So it's interesting how that if you're genuine and about that person, their mindset can actually really change.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head though when you talk about it being about relationships too. It's not about falsely going in and saying, okay, I got to ask this person about themselves.
Right.
How many kids do you have? How many dogs do you have? Okay, that's over with. Where's all the big money? No,
Right.
it's about making it, because that person could make your day, because there's other investors who are walking in. They know this. This isn't uncommon knowledge. This is stuff that they know. They walk into those same places and they're trying to get that information, but are they taking the right approach to it?
Yeah, I think what I had done on that example I gave was I asked her about her experience with that radio station. It wasn't anything more than, do you like working here? Is this a good place? And
Right,
that I could see her eyes light up a little bit because I was asking about her and her,
right.
and her opinion. So that makes
That's
sense.
that's how that works. Yeah. So what about so other than going into see the city, or is there other ways to see if you're in an emerging market, or?
Uh, yeah, well, looking at the path of progress, sometimes the city can tell you what that is. Sometimes you have other brokers that are familiar with this. But if you can know where the development is happening, that's going to give you an idea of maybe where the emerging market's going to happen. If you know that there's jobs coming into town, um, you can see where the path is. Whether that's um, vacant land that's going to be zoned for construction. Permits. Uh, are there permits for new construction? That's going to tell you a lot. New business licenses. Have there been a lot of licenses being pulled for new businesses? Those can be ways of finding out what's going on. Is there some new activity happening? And what's interesting is that you can see, if you understand that information and then you look at some low potential markets that you think is low potential, but they're really staged for some explosive growth, then that's what we call emerging markets. And I can, when you put all the pieces together, that's you're going to see a lot of upside.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Yeah, because if you can just get ahead of that, it's just about jumping in front of the path, before it gets there. I've seen it here where, when they, at one point in time when they had a really big growth spurt on the new housing being developed, and smart buyers were buying in there when the prices were, for a 3-4 bedroom condo were still only
Mhm.
$400,000,
Sure.
you know, and they're turning around and selling those, after a short period of time for 8,
Uh,
and
that
uh,
that's what I'm talking about. That's
yeah,
the upside that we're looking for when you have an emerging market, because there's so much more demand coming to the area. That's why the price can double like that.
right. But now, does emerging market mean that it's more of a buy and hold type of scenario?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
typically if there's an emerging market, you want to hold it because you want to try to um, get the maximum amount. And that's the scary part, is like, when does that curve start to go down, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's just as you saw jobs coming to town, and there's indicators of that type of thing. You can see uh, there's little factors of the opposite happening, where it becomes a seller's market, or more of a buyer's market. So there's uh, not so many new home construction or new
Mhm.
startups. There's the rents in the area are starting. They flattened out, and
Mm,
now maybe the rents are starting to go down a little bit.
mm.
Those can be indicators that, all right, maybe now's a time to sell, because the curve is now peaked, and maybe that it's time to consider that.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that is that is very interesting. And it's and if you don't stay up on top of this stuff, though, this is part of, if you're in this business, this is what you got to do. You got to stay up on top of this stuff and make those relationships. When you have the relationships, it's a lot easier to get that information.
Right. Bless you.
Excuse me. It's a lot easier to get the information, but when even if you don't have those relationships, there's all kinds of resources that you can go and just kind of check in every once in a while. Put it in your calendar.
Right.
Hey, let's just check and see once a month what's the status of the local area or whatever area you're targeting.
Sure.
Because I tell people all the time, my clients are like going, well, you know, we want to sell at the peak of the market. And I go, well, look, there's only one way to know when we're at the peak of the market. And they're like, tell us, oh wise one. And I said, and I tell them, I said, the only way you know when the peak of the market is after you've missed it,
Right.
right? Because if you think about it, and even when we're talking about getting this information, nobody really knows specifically exactly when the peak of any market is going to happen,
Right.
when the valley of any market is going to happen, because there are so many variables involved, and uh, and real estate is a hyper local thing. It's like when I listen to the news and they go, the housing market is crashing or something like that, right? And then you look at it
There.
and it goes, across the United States, there's 0.001573%, of the homes have dropped in value. And you're like, okay, that's not happening in Orange County.
Right.
That's probably not happening in
So true.
Texas.
So true.
It might be somewhere else, but not here.
Well, it's interesting because you can have an emerging market in one part of the country and a declining market in another one. And even in a city that is declining, you might have a neighborhood that's going up, because some companies moving into town, that's affecting that neighborhood, or
Right.
that section of the city, versus the other side not so much. So it is very hyper local, very much so.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Anything else?
Man, love doing this show. I'm excited to keep going.
Yeah, this is great. Folks, we're looking at bringing you ways of making passive income in your business. And, uh, we share these tips and tricks with you just so you can kind of get to know who we are, and get to like us and trust us. If you think we're, not good looking enough for you, to just listen to the podcast. If you like us, you can watch the YouTube channel. Either way, it's the same thing on either channel. But we've got methods that we use to generate a substantial income for most agents if they take advantage of it. And it is something that you can have access to as well, just by reaching out to us. We'd love to chat with you. And this is a one-on-one call. This isn't to, fill out a form and go through a sales funnel process. We're looking for key people that we would like to share our processes with. And so if you want to reach out to us, just give us a call or schedule a call, via the website at thepassiverealestateagent.com. And, if it works for you, great. If not, that's great too. But here's one of the things that I know is that when people get to know about these processes that we're not allowed to talk about on this podcast, their eyes bug out of their head and they lose sleep over it. And they're going, my God, why did I not know about this decades ago? And I'm sorry if I'm overselling it, but that's what happened to me. And I've been doing this for a long time. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I was mad at the guy for waiting 10 years to share it with me, a good friend of mine. So anyway, so that's where we're at, guys. We love doing the show. And hey, if there's a topic you want to hear about, just put it in the website and just go to the contact us page and say, hey, you know what? I want to learn about this, about investing, or, there's a marketing situation that I need help with my listings or with getting buyers or something like that. And we'll be happy to share our knowledge with you or get the right people who have the knowledge to share with you as well. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for being part of the show. Matt?
See you next time.
All right. Have a great one, guys. Take care. Thanks so much for listening to the Passive Real Estate Agent Podcast. Hey, do us a favor and subscribe to us on whatever platform you're listening to us right now. Don't forget the likes and the comments. We always appreciate it. And, it really helps others to find this valuable information. Now, look, there's something that both Matt and I and several of our guests have discovered that has radically changed our real estate job into a truly passive income. And it's a little controversial, and that's why we really don't discuss it on the show. But we'd like to invite those truly entrepreneurial individuals to learn more. Just visit thepassiverealestateagent.com and join one of our upcoming webinars. You'll thank yourself later that you did. Thanks again so much for listening. Take care.